Hey guys, this is Sparkblood Soldier here, and this is part 4 on what if Deku had Kabane powers. No fear, just silence. And I hope you like this video, and hope you subscribe. Sugu has gone out of UA room and went to class 1A. And all the students were a little worried, but not as terrible as they might look at him. And Ochaka then comes towards his seat and says, "Hey Sugu, how's it going?" And Sugu then says, fine, and with a blunt look on his face. And Ochako says, I can't tell if you're happy or just something else. And Sugu then says, no, I'm happy. And Ochako is trying to figure out his expressions. And then Ochako says, sorry that we were a little frightened about the ghoul part of you. It was just unexpected. And Suki says, no, it's fine. Giving a straight look, but looking towards and waiting on his seat. And Ochako says, are you a little sad? And Suki then says, no, I'm not sad. And Ochako is trying to get Suki to say something else. He is like a open book when he's saying something, but his expressions are not great. Then Mina chimes in. Hey, Suki, how's it going? And Suki says, fine. And Mina then pictures his face. And checking his hair and his eyes. And Ochaka says, Mina, what are you doing? And Mina then says, wow, you have really good looks for a kid that never ate anyone. And Suki says, oh, thank you. And Mina then tries something else. I got an idea. And Chaka says, huh? Then Mina whispers to Chako. And Suki was confused on what they're doing. And Mina says, hey, Suki, how do you feel about Bakugo? Are you happy that he's afraid of you? And Ochaka says, huh? Mina? And Suki then smiles and says, yes. And Mina says, aha! And Ochaka says, huh? What are you saying, aha? He's lying! Mina points out, and Ochako then says, lying? And Suki then goes back to his straight face. What do you mean by lying? And Mina says, you smile when you lie. I could tell from your expressions, lack of expressions. You only go into a straight face. But when your eyebrows go a little angry, then it's easy to tell that you're angry. And Mina also then figures out, but when you're smiling, you lie to your people very easily, letting it slip out. And Suki then thinks about that one. I do. And Mina then says, but you don't need to be shy about it. And Suki then says, okay, I'll try my best. And Ochako then says, so blunt, his words. And then Kirishima then says, hey Zuka, I saw how ripped your body is. And Suki says, huh? Is that true? Yeah. How many times did you work out? About every day. And Kirishima then says, whoa, that's amazing. And all the other students, except for Bakugo, were gathering up and talking to him, giving him more comfortability. And Suki was at a bit of a surprise, but also a little happy on that. Then a certain person comes and says, don't worry, hey guys, I am here, walking through the door. And all the students were excited, and Suki just let out a passive, woo, and not in a rhetorical sense, just his own version of excitement. All Might then says, alright, young heroes, it's time to get into your hero gear and use it on your first hero test. And all the students were excited to get into their hero gear. Well, except for Zuko, who, more or less thinks it's just a choice that he choose, like it's just his own regular stuff. But he does go to get his gear, and then he sports a sick-ass sweatshirt with red gloves and some sweatpants on that. There's nothing special at them at mere glance, but they're made out of them is from his little hairs that is from his head. And Suku then wonders, feels not bad, it's just interesting. Just curious on why they needed those hairs. And then Suku then goes out, and all of class 1A were in the exam and getting ready to do the exam on how heroes are. And then Ochaka says, wow, Suku, yours is pretty average. And Suku then says, is that a good thing? In a question, but not a surprise way. And Ochaka says, no, it's not a bad thing. It's just, I never expect you to be choosing the normal fit, but you do look cool with that skeleton sweatshirt. And Suki says, oh, thank you. You look nice in yours. And Ochaka says, thanks. But it is a little revealing. And Suki then says, oh, yeah, it does. And Ochako is a little astonished on Suku's bluntness. And Hina then charms in and says, whoa, you look awesome with that sweatshirt. And Suki says, thank you. And then she noticed a necklace. Oh, I see a necklace you're holding that Azawa told us. Can I look at it? And Suki then says, sure, don't break it. And Hina says, I won't. I'm just going to take a look. And Hina then takes a look at the necklace. This is an interesting necklace. I bet this is negating all of your negative things, right? And as Hina was looking at it, Suki then says, I don't know how it works, but it does negate something. And Mina then, when she was done looking at the necklace, she then looks at Suki and gives him a smile. Alright, Ghoulie, well, let's get to figuring it out together. And Suki then says, Ghoulie? Yeah, like ghoul. And Suki then says, okay, I'll do whatever you want. And Mina then realizes that Suki is pretty much of a pushover. Pretty easy to tell where to go or do something. And Ochako also says, should we help him on making his own decisions? And Mina says, no, I think he has to figure it out himself. And Suki was confused on what they're saying. And then All Might says, ha ha! Alright, young heroes, it's time to choose your teams for Hero Team and Villain Team! And as All Might then picks up which teams that are assigned to each other, Suki and Ochako are obviously in Hero Team, and Bakugo and Ida are in Villain Team. But Bakugo progressed on what he said and does not want to fight Zuko, but he kinda has to, because a real hero needs to face his fears up front. And then Bakugo then sighs and then smirks and says, damn it! Now I'm gonna be so angry, I'm gonna be killing that boy more than once! And Ida then says, are you really sure? Shut it, Four Eyes! And Bakugo was absolutely pissed in more ways than one. One, he's afraid of Suki, but also doesn't want to lose, but he gets very angry that he doesn't want to disappoint his favorite hero, All Might. And then Ochako and Suki then go, and Ochako then thinks, how am I gonna... And Suki then says, well, we can't break the door open, because that'll make more suspicion. And Ochako then says, why don't we go through the window? And Suki then says, okay. And Ochako is amazed on how agreeable that Suki is to use her float and go through the window as in canon. Bakugo doesn't want Ida anywhere close to him because he wants to prove that he got better and prove to himself that he is not afraid anymore. So he's going by himself. And Ida tries to reason with him, but Bakugo is too stubborn and too listen to even one hint of a reason. And Ochako then walks with Suki. So, Suki, how do you know that your quirk is that dangerous? And Suki then says, I didn't. It was just by luck. And Ochako then says, luck? And Suki says, maybe it's not luck, but it was just something that urged. And Ochako then says, but did your family try to fix your problem on expression? And Suki then was going to answer, but when he was about to answer what she said, he then sidestepped and pushes her away. And Ochako says, what the? And then Bakugo then hits him with an explosion. And Bakugo says, I'm gonna beat your ass, you ghoul! And Suki then sees his hand destroyed and regenerates from an instant. And Bakugo then says, I see your regeneration has gone. Looks like it accelerated. And Suki then looks at Bakugo. Thanks for the compliment. And then Bakugo says, that wasn't a compliment! And Ochako says, Suki, are you... And Bakugo then scratches his head. He's fine. The only thing that could actually pose a threat was him not registering it. Or you. And Ochako says, so you know that he was there? And Suki then says, I heard his footsteps for a second. And Bakugo then says, your regeneration pain tolerance freaking annoying. Pisses me off. Shaking his hands a bit. And then Suki says, alright, Ochako, get to the bomb. I'll take care of Bakugo. And Bakugo says, bring it on, you shitty ghoul. I'm gonna make you regret becoming this. And Suki says, I already regret it already. And Bakugo then says, man, you really know how to piss a person off with your lack of knowing. Aren't you a son of Miss Jokes, the pro hero that knows humor? And Chaga then realized that his family does actually care about his expressions. His expression is hard to deal with. And Chaga then realized, okay, now I know why. Giving a little smile and says, alright, gotta go. And then both Bakugo and Zuko stand by side and look at each other. And Bakugo says, I'm afraid, but I'll kick your ass. And Zuko then looks at Bakugo. And then Bakugo then explodes. And then Zuko didn't react in time. And Bakugo grabs his hand and says, take this! And throwing him to the wall. And Zuko then crashes to the wall and was stuck for a second. But when Zuko tries to move, Bakugo then says, take this! And explodes his whole body. And Bakugo says, I hate him. so much. And Suki then has his head popping out of his place and seeing the smoke. Bakugo then realizes, oh no, you're not! Getting ready for another explosion. But when he gets ready, Suki then sees the ceiling and says, there's a good leverage. And then he creates his whole body in a mere second and uses the ceiling to push himself and kicking and grabbing Bakugo without any hesitation. Bakugo said, "Ugh, ugh," and both roll on the floor. Bakugo and Suki were trying to keep one another out of not getting the upper hand. But when Suki tries to go for a punch on the ground, Bakugo then explodes his with enough force to push him away. And Suki then gets a bit far. And Bakugo says, you're making me sweat harder. That's good. But then when Suki heard that, Suki then runs. And Bakugo then says, hey, get back here! And Suki then thinks, maybe I should not get him to sweat more. If he sweat more, then it could make it harder. But when he thinks about that, Bakugo then says, take this! But when he goes for another hit, Suki then grabs him and throws him on the ground. And Bakugo then says, not this time! And explodes on the land with his palm and then throws him back with enough force. And then Suki then gets thrown back even farther. And then Bakugo says, looks like I got you. And then All Might says, Bakugo, this isn't a good idea. Even heroes don't, even villains don't take that risk. Well, he's already hard to kill. Why don't we try it? And Bakugo then unleashes his gauntlet on Suki. And Suki then sees the gauntlet and a huge explosion from it and attacking Suki with that. Then Suki feels his heartbeat races. Ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. And he then remembers what Zawa told him. It's in your nature. You tend to forget that you can feel your feelings and have a rush. And don't forget about others. Try at being at risk at something. Being true to your own instinct. And then Suki then opens his eyes, and his eyes glow with red. His hair then glows with imminent red color, and the explosion hits Suki, and Bakugo says, ha! I finally got him! But when he says that, Suki then thinks to himself, using one for all, and brave. Ghoul. Pounce. And Suki uses one for all with his ghoul strength to jump as a monster. And Bakugo, seeing, didn't do any damage to Suki. But then he sees his leg. Okay, one more try. Take this! And Bakugo then uses his explosion to hit his body. And Suki's body then gets destroyed, hit with a explosion from Bakugo. And Bakugo says, ha! Got you! And then something unexpected happened. Suki's hand pops off in the air, and Bakugo says, what the? And then Suki regenerates his right hand again, and grabs his limb of his right hand, and then swings it with enough force, creating a fist and punching him with his decapitated hand, giving him a decapitated fist, and knocking Bakugo out. And Suki says, gave me a challenge, thank you. And Bakugo says, damn you shitty ghoul. And then Suki then wraps him up, poorly, but he did effectively eliminated him. And Chako told him where to go, and Suki follows and finds the weapon and where Ida is. And then they try to catch Ida. Ida was moving too fast, and Suki didn't want to use one for all because he hasn't fully used it yet. He can only implode his body by it. And then Suki has an idea. Hey, Chaco. And he whispers in Chaco's ear. Really? That's so... okay. And Suki then breaks his arm off. And Ida says, what the? You can do that? And Suki says, relax, it'll regenerate. Then Suki breaks off another, and another, and says, here. And Chaka says, you, this is so weird. And then Suki then throws his hands at Ida. And Ida says, oh! And using gravity to make it less weight and giving him much faster throwing, Ida is trying to run from the hands. And then he realized, of course, he could use hands to touch the weapon. He doesn't need his whole body to touch it. Nah, that's clever, but pretty messed up at the same time, Ida remarks. But when he was focusing on the arms, he forgot about something else. Something that he wasn't expecting. Suki then throws his head and says, hey, Ida. And Ida then was surprised to see Suki throwing his head. He didn't even see it. And then turning his body back and touching the weapon. I win. And Ida says, no! The weapon! And All Might says, Hero Team wins! And Ida says, oh man, how did you... And Ida says with a remark, I wasn't expecting you to throw your head like that. And Suki says, by using a decoy, by using my arms with the zero gravity. And Chaka says, it was scary, but I got used to it. And Ida says, oh, so those were a distraction. Nice maneuver. And Suki says, it was a simple idea to do. And Suki took MVP for making sure that Chaka was safe and having a creative idea with it. And All Might says, good job, young Midoriya. Looks like you're finally having your handle on that quirk of yours. And Suki says, how did I look? And then Mina and Chaka says, you look so cool. That red hair glowing was so awesome. I wasn't expecting you to turn red hair. And Suki says, so I can... And Suki then smiles and says, oh, I'm glad to see. And giving a smile. And Hina says, now that's a true smile. And Chaka says, agreed. And that's where I'm ending this video. I hope you liked this video and hope you subscribe. See you next time. Plus.